Some people say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. You think Giffords ever heard that? Because they're at it again, ladies and gentlemen. Take a look at this. Victory! This is from Giffords' Twitter page or X page, whatever we're calling it these days. It says victory. Yay. Huge, all caps, ladies and gentlemen. This is a big victory, okay? This is monumental, big stuff right here, okay? We're suing Glock. Ho ho! Can you believe it? They are suing Glock again. Get this, for selling semi-automatic handguns. The audacity of Glock to sell semi-automatic handguns, ladies and gentlemen. Huh. But apparently, Glock knows that these handguns can easily be converted into, get this, illegal machine guns. Can you believe that? Illegal machine guns. Huh. But here is what they're celebrating right here. A court ruled that our suit, as in Giffords' lawsuit, can move forward. That is what their big victory is about, ladies and gentlemen. Make it make sense. They go on to say the gun industry is not above the law. This is a major win for public safety. You just can't make this stuff up. Minnesota defeats motion to dismiss lawsuit against Glock. That's what they're celebrating right here. They're celebrating this. It says, Minnesota's Attorney General, Keith Ellison, announced that Minnesota has prevailed against Glock's attempt to dismiss Minnesotans' lawsuit against the handgun manufacturer. Huh. Crazy. On December 12th, 2024, Attorney General Ellison announced that he was suing Glock for manufacturing, marketing, and selling, get this, semi-automatic handguns that Glock knows can be easily converted into illegal machine guns with a device known as a Glock switch. Now that right there brings us to an interesting point. You guys have probably heard about this Glock switch, right? The Glock switch. That's the big thing. That's why they're suing Glock over the Glock switch. So you know what? I already knew this, but for, poops and giggles or shits and giggles, whatever, I decided to just do a little quick search and asked Google, did Glock invent the Glock switch? And Google says, no! Glock did not invent the Glock switch. Venezuelan inventor Jorge Leon is credited with inventing the fire selecting system, or Glock switch. So once again, Glock is being sued for the 1000th time because someone, a Venezuelan inventor, invented a little doohickey switch invention that goes on the back of a Glock to, get this, turn it into a machine gun. It wasn't Glock. Glock didn't invent it. And in fact, if you keep reading this little timeline here, we'll go down. It says late 1980s. Leon meets with Gaston Glock in Venezuela to show him the invention. Glock advises Leon, get this, to leave it as a curiosity. So they say, okay, I mean, we can check out the entire link and we can literally go through all of it if you want. I'll link it all so you can do the research on your own. But ladies and gentlemen, we're suing Glock for something that Gaston Glock told the guy to leave it as a curiosity. Don't, basically, in my opinion, that sounds like, don't do it, it's a trap, don't even start. So basically, Glock was opposed to this Glock switch to begin with and said, nah, not a good idea. Let maybe not a good idea. Maybe don't do that. And the guy was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it anyway. And yet, Glock, once again, is being sued for something that they did not invent. Anyone else find that absolutely ridiculous? It's insanity. Like I said. Now, why do I think this is insanity? For multiple reasons. For starters, Gaston Glock, or whoever is selling Glocks these days, I believe he's passed away now. Glocks these days, whoever's selling Glocks, Glock manufacturer, whoever, the company, whatever they are, they're not the ones out, you know, pew-pewing people. They're not the ones doing it. Okay? They're not the ones that are putting the little doohickey created by a Venezuelan inventor on the back of their firearm to turn it in to a fully automatic, which they don't sell. They sell semi-automatic, as you saw in Giffords' thing. Like a million times they said semi-automatic, semi-automatic, semi-automatic. What Glock creates is not illegal. Glock is not the ones doing the shooting. So why are we blaming Glock? Once again, people don't want to take responsibility for not arresting criminals or putting people behind bars. They would rather blame the manufacturer. This is, okay, Glock makes the gun. Half the time they don't even sell the gun, so they definitely don't sell it just directly to people most of the time. Most of the time you have to buy it from a dealer. And then a dealer half the time goes through there's like 14 different steps half the time before it even gets into the hands of the actual consumer, who would be out on the street terrorizing people by breaking the law and adding this little doohickey on the back of their Glock. In what world, in what mind does that make any sense? If we go way back here, we're we gonna start like arresting mothers and grandmothers? Or get this, how about we arrest your grandmother because you are out doing bad things? So we're just gonna go start arresting criminals' grandmothers. Or get this, how about the criminals' grandmother's boss because they allowed her, or the grandfather's boss? Let's do this. This is like saying that you're going to arrest the criminal's grandfather's boss because he allowed him enough money to be able to produce this kid and raise this kid and feed this kid, and so therefore this kid grew up to be a man, and the man was turned into a criminal, so therefore we have to sue the grandfather's boss. That's basically what's going on here. It makes no sense. Ladies and gentlemen, this is, my brain's gonna get on me for saying ladies and gentlemen because it's my go-to when I want to use bad words. So, all right, well, that being said, let's move on back to the lawsuit itself. Okay, so they go on to say, Glock moved to dismiss the state's complaint, and the court heard oral arguments on Glock's motion on May 23rd of 2025. Giffords Law Center is representing the Minnesota Attorney General in the lawsuit. No crap. Giffords, Everytown, or what's the other one? Every single one of these gun control groups have a hand in these lawsuits. Shouldn't even be lawsuits to begin with because there's laws in place to stop this kind of thing. I believe it's the PLCAA, but anyways, or the PLACA. But that being said, let's move on. So it says Giffords is representing Minnesota Attorney General, okay? Get this. Chicago files lawsuit against Glock for endangering city through the sales and marketing of easily modified firearms. Guess who has a hand in that? Everytown. Shocker. Gun control group suing Glock. I'm shocked. And that was, when was that one? 5/31/24. Okay? We have another one. Baltimore and Maryland sue Glock for harming Marylanders. Public health and safety with easily modified pistols. Everytown. Here we have New Jersey is among the states suing gun manufacturer Glock because somebody, a Venezuelan inventor, invented a doohickey that is now able to be 3D printed, and now criminals are getting in, terrorizing people. Okay, well, sue the criminals. Arrest them. What are your thoughts on this? Should this even be allowed? I mean, sure, they're celebrating this win, but like, should they have even won this? I want to know your thoughts down in the comments. Let me know. And although, like I said, I've never been a fan of Glock, they got me really wanting to spend some money with Glock. I think their hoodies are really comfortable. Maybe I'll buy one of those. But that would be a lot to make up for a lawsuit. Well, Glocks for Christmas it is. You guys have a great night.